In this video, I will show you how to talk to people, the call script that we want to use. I'll put a copy of that on there, as well as a questionnaire sheet that you might have in front of you as you call people about distressed properties. Hi, my name is Andre Baldry, and welcome to my video log. I apologize I have to make this while I'm in traffic on the way to an appointment. But at any rate, so you've got your distress list, you've put out some marketing, perhaps you put out some bandit signs, perhaps you sent out some letters, or perhaps you're just picking up the phone and you're going to cold call people, or you're going to knock on their door. Actually, out of those methods, I recommend that the most successful method, in my opinion, is to actually knock on the door. I'm going to talk a little bit louder because I'm in traffic, so I'm going to talk a little louder than I normally do. But at any rate, what I would do, yes, I would knock on the person's door. That usually is the best, absolute best way to talk to the people, right? Because there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people sending letters, so they're going to get a whole lot of letters. There's a lot of people making calls, but it's not as many people that's going to show up on their doorstep and actually knock on the door. So that is the most desirable and highly recommended method of doing that, is to actually knock on the door. So what I do when I'm out knocking on the door, if you have business cards, that's fine. It's not mandatory. You can just simply, give them have a sheet of paper and be prepared to write down your phone number and leave your phone number with them. That'll be fine. But if you have business cards, then that's great. You can knock on the door, and after you talk to them, you can, ask them if they'll take one of your business cards. But at any rate, I knock on the door, and the doors that I usually knock on are targeted, so it's not a 100% complete code, as in, I'm driving for dollars and I see a house that's vacant and I walk up to the door and knock on them that way. I mean, most of mine are targeted, but those are good leads as well. I mean, you can certainly walk up to a door and do it actually code. But at any rate, I have a list, be it a probate, they could be a tax lien, they could be a pre-foreclosure. Those are the types of properties that I have. So I usually know the name of the person. By the time I'm walking up to the door, I usually have their name from the list, from the actual list that I'm using for the targeting. So let's say the name is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I generally walk up to the door, I'll knock on the door, and I don't stand real close to the door. I don't want to be intimidating. So I generally stand about, I don't know, a good 15, 20 feet back away from the door, so that it doesn't look like I'm going to barge in the door should they, actually open the door. I'm far enough away that, they'll feel pretty comfortable opening the door. So once they open the door, I introduce myself. I say, hi, my name is Andre Baldry. I'm a real estate investor in the area. I'm looking at buying properties in the area, and I noticed your property and wanted to know if you were considering selling. That's basically the way I do it. And then I wait for their response. Now, the fact that I know that they're on a tax list or on one of the other prospecting lists, and I do have their name, let me rewind just a little bit. I do introduce myself and ask for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I say, hi, can I speak to Mr. and Mrs. Smith? And then I wait for a response. Mrs. Smith is not here, or they are here, or what have you. And then I go back to that other script. Hi, my name is Andre Baldry. I'm an investor in the area. We're looking to buy properties in the area and wanted to know if you guys were considering selling. And then I wait for a response. Why would you think we're considering selling? Then I would bring up, very lightly, not blatantly, well, you're on my tax foreclosure list. I would very lightly say, well, my office does research, and this particular address came up in that research, in that you might, be interested in selling now or in the near future. And then if they say, well, no, that information is wrong or whatever, you kind of feel them out at that point to see what kind of response you get. If you get an inviting response, then great. You want to try to build rapport with them. The next thing I would ask is if they say, well, yeah, we might be considering, then I would say, well, here's my information. If now is not a good time to talk, you can please give me a call at this number, or is there a better time where I might be able to contact you? And then you wait for a response. I mean, I've knocked on many doors, but very seldom, I mean, it does happen occasionally, but very seldom do they invite me in right away. Oh yeah, come on in, have a seat, and let's sit down and talk about this. I mean, that could happen, but it's a very rare case scenario on my part. So the basic thing is you want to let them know who you are and what you do and why you're knocking on their door. Again, if you have the business card, you can give that to them. Otherwise, you can use a sheet of paper for notes or anything like that. So at that point, you know, you'll have a contact, hopefully. Best case scenario, I mean, worst case scenario is they will have your card. Well, worst case scenario is they say, we're not interested, go away, right? That's absolutely worse. But the middle case scenario is okay, we'll keep you in mind, you give them the card. And best case scenario is you get a contact number for them. Oh, well, Mr. and Mrs. Smith isn't here, but here, I have their phone number, I'll give this to you, and you can give them a call. Okay, that would be a good scenario as well. And of course, best case scenario, they let you in the house. But at any rate, let's move on to the next step. So you made your contact, and if you get a phone number or they call you, or as a result of any of your other marketing, you know, you're doing letters, you've put out bandit signs, you've made other cold calls and someone calls you back, okay? So at this point, either if you're making for cold calls or someone calls you back. Now, with the list of information that you have, wherever you're getting the list from, and there are several sources out there that get lists, you know, there's other videos that talk about that, you know, how to get lists, things of that nature. So I'm not going to concentrate on that. But at any rate, usually when you get a list, you will have the, you know, the address, the property address, the phone number. You may have a lot of information about the property, but very seldom would you have an actual phone number for the individuals. So what I suggest is that you do some searches to try to find out a contact number for that person or that property that you're trying to reach. There are several sources out there, and I've used quite a few of them. And most recently, I've switched over to a new service. I've used everything from Intellius. I've used Private Eye. Actually, they're not around anymore, but that was an old one back in the day. I've used TLO, which is usually designed for attorneys. I had access to that for a while. And then I also used PeopleSmart. Excuse me. Talking loud, getting a little hoarse. Drink a sip of water. But at any rate, the one that I've just recently settled down to use, excuse me while I take a sip. It's called Truth Finder. TruthFinder. I'll put that in the notes as well. So truthfinder.com is the main service that I'm using right now. It gives me unlimited searches, and I can go in and, you know, enter someone's phone number. I can search by the phone number. I can search by the address, and more commonly, I can search by the individual. But a lot of times, the individual is going to have a common name, right? So if their name is Edward Smith, searching by the individual, you'll get too many results because it only displays up to 100 results at a time. And most people search engines do this. So regardless of the engine that you're using, if you have a common name like Edward Smith, you want to go into your people search and type in hopefully by address, or you can narrow it down. If Edward Smith lives in Villa Park, Illinois, then you can type in Edward Smith in Villa Park, Illinois, and your results may only come down to 40 or 50 people, or hopefully 1 to 10 people for Edward Smith that happens to be in Villa Park, Illinois. A little more about the truthfinder.com to subscribe to that. They do have a trial. It's not a free trial, but they have what's called a $1 trial. And for that $1, you get a 5-day trial. So you pay $1 and you have a trial for 5 days. You can search for that. I'll see if I can find a link to it. I've looked for it before. They don't really promote it that much. But worst case scenario, there's a phone number for Truthfinder on the site, truthfinder.com. And you can give that phone number a call and ask them, you know, to put you on a $1 trial for 5 days. The service is unlimited. You can do unlimited searches, and you can once you go past the 5 days, if you want to keep the service, it's an investment of $27 per year. I'm sorry, per month. $27 per month for the unlimited searches. I think that's well worth it in our business. The main thing we have to do is to locate people. A lot of times they've moved out of the property's vacant. So the better we are at finding the people, the more likely we are to secure a good deal, where other people might not be able to find them because everybody is looking for them now because the property's vacant. So let's be the first one to find them and have a good service to utilize finding that person. So in the Truth Finder, if you have a common name, Edward Smith, and of course Edward Smith at one point in their life might have lived in Villa Park. Perhaps they moved to another place. So putting in Villa Park may kind of limit you somewhat, but if they happen to have lived in Villa Park at one point, the Truth Finder will return to you some of the newer places that they might live now. I've run this test on myself with Truth Finder. You might do the same as well when you sign up, just to see how accurate or inaccurate the information might be. What I found out is that Truth Finder normally returns about 10 different addresses, let's say roughly, and it actually gives you phone numbers. One thing I like about Truth Finder, it gives you not only landline phone numbers, but you get cell phone numbers as well. So Truth Finder will return about approximately 10 phone numbers for every individual, and it also gives you actual email addresses. The other service that I used just before this, called PeopleSmart, it gave you a way to contact the people that you're searching for. Once you get a hit, it gives you an ability to contact them by sending an email to them, but you had to do it through Truth Finder. Truth Finder would always cover up their entire email. I'm sorry, PeopleSmart would always cover up their entire email address. It would, give you the beginning of it, then put asterisk in the middle, and gives you a way to send it, but you won't actually ever know it because it comes through that PeopleSmart program. The thing I like about Truth Finder is they give you the entire actual email address. So this, of course, is very handy to search for them by email on the internet. You can get additional social services that Truth Finder may not give you. The other thing is that Truth Finder does actually give you social media profiles as well. If there's a photograph out there in social media, or several photographs for social media for that individual, it'll give you that information as well. So Truth Finder is very good for this service. So you put in the name on Truth Finder, you get a hit, it gives you that person's name as well as their relatives. Edward Smith might be a common name, but perhaps they've got a relative with an uncommon name, like maybe Versia Adams, something like that. A little bit more uncommon, so you might, and there's a link there to click for the search for the uncommon person. It could be a brother, it could be a parent, it could be a very close relative. on TruthFinder. And as you go in and look for yourself, you'll see how it's laid out, so you can see what relatives and what friends and associates come up for you to give you a look and feel of what it's going to look like. So it's going to give you all the social media addresses, and it's going to give you all the email addresses, and it'll give you like 10 phone numbers for each and every person. Out of those 10 phone numbers, what I found is that usually one of those phone numbers, if it's not going to give you directly to that individual, one of those phone numbers will get you very close to someone, perhaps a brother, a mom, a dad, a child. It could be an adult child, of course. It's not going to give you anyone under the age of 18. And you could call that person if the numbers that you call are, you know, disconnected or whatever. And most numbers will be, right, because there's 10 phone numbers out there, which gives a trail of however many years that TruthFinder is going to give you. And as you look at it for yourself, you'll see some of the outdated phone numbers that you used to have. But again, it's usually going to give you a phone number right to that person, and usually a cell phone number. So you just make all the calls. You call every single number. For the ones that are disconnected, that'll be very quick. As soon as you make the call, this number is disconnected, and you go on to the next. So you call all the 10 numbers on the list. Again, you're trying to find a person. So once you do that and you find a person, the conversation on the phone, and I have a script that I'll link to this article as well. I mean, to this video as well. The conversation that you want to have with them is, hi, can I reach Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Yes, my name is Andre Baldry. Essentially the same conversation you have standing in front of them. Hi, my name is Andre Baldry. I'm a real estate investor. If you know the house is vacant, off script here for a while. If you know the house is vacant, then you can mention that in the conversation. So if I knew the house is vacant, then I would do this. Hi, my name is Andre Baldry. I'm a real estate investor, and I'm looking to buy houses in the area of approximately where the house is located, in the area of Bellwood, in the area of Villa Park. I was driving by the house the other day and noticed that it might be vacant and wondered if you guys were considering selling. That's it, point blank. That's the open statement. Oh, well, yeah, that's my mom's house, and I didn't know it was vacant, but yeah, that's my mom's house. She's not here right now. Oh, okay. Well, if I can get some contact information for your mom, perhaps I can talk to her about the property to see if she's interested in selling. Again, it looks like it's vacant. I don't know if it's I don't know if your mom knows about the fact that it is vacant. I don't know if she's been to the property for a while. But if you can ask her to give me a call, and may I give you my phone number? And that's what you do. In many cases, I've ad-libbed that, but I do have a script that will identify some key points you can ask as well. And then I have a lead sheet. I'll attach that as well. And on that lead sheet, I have all the pertinent information that you want to gather as you talk to that individual once you get them on the phone. You want to try to build a rapport somewhat if you can. I know it's kind of hard to do on the phone, but at any rate, if you're familiar with the area, if you've lived in the area, that's great. You know, I live right here in Evanston. You know, this is my area, and I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. I went to such and such high school, and they may volunteer where they went to high school. So at any rate, you know, you try to build a rapport as you talk to them on the phone. And you want to get the property information, but at any rate, you don't want to sound like, you know, an interrogation or questionnaire or anything like that. You want to kind of make it flow. By the way, how many bedrooms does the property have? Have you owned it for a long time? If they are considering selling, you can say, what reason are you considering selling? Do you know what the property is worth? What kind of work does the property need? If you were to sell the property, what would you say the main thing that needs to be done? So again, I have all these on the questionnaire. I won't concentrate on that. Just concentrating on how you get that connection, and you know, you try to build a rapport, and that's how you try to talk to people. So you go down your list. Either you're driving by, you're knocking on doors, or you're making phone calls and you're trying to connect with people. And a lot of times people will call you back. Sometimes they won't call you back. But that essentially is it in a nutshell. Trying to think of what else I need to talk about in terms of contacting people. A lot of times you'll find that people have passed away. They'll mention, oh yeah, that was my mom, she passed away. You want to be empathetic. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You know, and sometimes it can be quite sensitive. I've talked to people before where, you know, they've lived in the property for over 30 years. And this is a property they grew up in. So, I mean, there's a lot of attachment there. So, again, you want to try to build rapport. You want to be empathetic. You know, you are there for a reason. You know, you're trying to help them out of their situation. It's a property. It could be in distress. It could be a distressful situation. You're just trying to talk to them and find out what they're trying to do. Oh, the next major thing I want to mention, as you fill out the property information sheet, what you're doing, if you're doing wholesaling, is that you're going to wholesale this property to an investor. That investor is only going to pay 70% of what that property's going to be worth, all fixed up and ready to sell. So using the example, if the property's worth $100,000 after it's fixed up in a good condition, the investor is going to buy that property for no greater than 70% of that particular value. So $100,000 property is worth $70,000. I'm sorry, $100,000 property, the investor is going to pay no more than $70,000. So you as a middle person need to be able to lock this property under contract for, let's say the property needs $10,000 in work. So now you need to market that to the investor for $60,000. So quite obviously, if you're going to market it to an investor for $60,000, right, because they got to put $10,000 worth of work in it, then that would mean that you need to lock that contract up for no greater than $55,000 if you're going to do a finder's fee of $5,000, right? So now this particular property, if you can get it for $55,000, and then you can wholesale it or wholesale it to an investor, and you're wholesaling the contract. You're not wholesaling the house. You don't have any rights to the house. You just have a financial interest in the house as a result of drawing up a contract. You cannot market the house. You're marketing the contract to the investor. So don't go tell them that you have this house that they can get for that amount. They can get the actual contract. You're selling your interest in the contract for the finder's fee, that $5,000. So, looking for my address here, I'm sorry. Okay, there it is. All right. So in that example, if it's going to be a $10,000 finder's fee that you're going to do with that, then you would market that house for $50,000. Okay. So you need to get it under contract. I'm sorry. You need to get that house under contract for $50,000. By getting it under contract for $50,000, then you'd be able to flip that contract or assign that contract, I should say. You're assigning that contract to an investor. It's going to actually come through and do the work on the property, the $10,000 worth of work. They're actually going to come through and do the work on that property. And you're going to assign your fee. Your fee assignment is $5,000. So for $5,000, I'm sorry, in that case, $10,000. So for $10,000, you're going to be assigned to Mr. Investor. So you lock it up for $50,000. You go out and shop around. You find a buyer. There's a lot of discussion about a buyer's list. I, for one, think that if you have a good enough deal, the buyer